Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles Sabansi. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And today we got a pretty interesting show. But before we get into it, please make sure you like the video and subscribe to the channel. Now, as you guys know, the big news is that ESPN fired a boatload of people yesterday, right? And as a matter of fact, here's some of the people that they fired. They fired Jeff Van Gundy, who I like, Jalen Rose, Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Todd McShay, Matt Hasselbeck, Ashley Brewer, Susie Colbert, Steve Young, LaFonso Ellis, Jason Fitz, June Lee, Jordan Cornette, David Pollock, and Nick Friedel, right? Those are just some of the people that they laid off yesterday. And that news pretty much sent a shock to the entire system. Now, I think the names that really surprised a lot of people are the biggest names, right? Because they also, as I said, they let go of Keyshawn Johnson. But I think the biggest names there are Jeff Van Gundy, because he covers games, who I like. I like his commentary. I like what he brought to basketball games. Jalen Rose was a big one. Jalen Rose was absolutely a big one. And of course, Max Kellerman. I think Max Kellerman may have been the biggest news in terms of firings. Now, we kind of saw this coming, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's a big piece of news. And as a matter of fact, when we produced a live around it, a lot of people were just in total disbelief that Max Kellerman got fired, right? A lot of people. Why? Because Max Kellerman, number one, joined ESPN back in 2002, right? So Max Kellerman has been with ESPN for 2 decades, right? 20 years. So this guy's been affiliated with them maybe through ESPN radio, on television. He's known for boxing as well. And also, Max Kellerman, I believe, is best known for his time when he was on ESPN First Take. And funny enough, I was listening to a segment from Marcellus Wiley's show yesterday, where, because, you know, Max Kellerman and Marcellus Wiley used to have an ESPN radio show that they used to host in Los Angeles. And he basically described the moment when Max Kellerman was getting the phone call that he was being, interviewed, there was interest in him to be the replacement for Skip Bayless on ESPN First Take. And he basically described the moment, and then Max Kellerman told him about it. He was like, bro, you need to go grab that opportunity. That's a good friend. He was like, yo, bro, what are you sitting here looking at me for? Peace. See you later. That's what he said, right? So when Max Kellerman joined ESPN First Take, it was a very, very big career move for him, right? Very, very big career move, because now you're on their number one morning show alongside arguably the face of the network and Stephen A. Smith. And that duo was together for a total of 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And when Max Kellerman came to ESPN First Take, I believe he brought a totally different flavor to the show. Skip and Stephen A. Smith had a certain kind of synergy. They had a certain type of chemistry. But Max Kellerman brought a more analytical, pragmatic approach to the conversation whenever he was debating Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith was more bombastic. Yes, he was analytical, but he was more bombastic. He was more colorful, more flamboyant in his delivery. And Max Kellerman was more of the analytical guy. Now, Max Kellerman did have some crazy takes along the way. Don't get it twisted, right? He was the one with the Tom Brady cliff theory. He was the one that said Kawhi Leonard is more clutch than Kobe Bryant. Max Kellerman had his fair share of quirky, wacky, crazy moments on ESPN First Take. But nevertheless, I thought he was a great fit. And then all of a sudden, in 2021, we found out that Max Kellerman was no longer going to be on ESPN First Take, and he was being fired or removed, however you want to call it. And we then found out that Stephen A. Smith actually advocated for that move, and he himself publicly admitted it when he went on various radio stations. And I'm going to tell you guys some of what he had to say. But before we get into that, this video is brought to you by sponsor Aura, who's also the official sponsor of the T-Wolves. Do you know what the fastest growing crime in America is today? It's identity theft. Imagine trying to log into your email only to see that your password has been changed. Then you start getting weird notifications from your bank and credit cards, only to find out that all of your personal and sensitive information has been totally compromised. If you think it can happen to you and your family, just know that in 2020, over 49 million Americans were victims to identity theft, costing them a combined $56 billion. That is why we are excited to partner with Aura, who's a sponsor sponsor of this video. Aura is the #1 identity theft and financial fraud protection. Aura monitors the dark web and alerts you if any of your passwords and accounts have been breached. And funny enough, after using Aura, I discovered some of my credentials were floating around in the dark web, and the app showed me exactly when and where the breach happened. In addition, Aura allows you to set spending alerts, and they'll notify you of any suspicious transactions. Aura is 4 times faster than any of its competitors in alerting you if someone is trying to open a credit card or obtain a loan using your name. And remember this, every 14 seconds, someone becomes a victim of identity fraud. Don't let it happen to you. Now click the link in the description and try Aura for free for 2 weeks and see if any of you or your family's personal information has been compromised. Start your free trial at aura.com/dreamerspro. And when you try Aura, by using the link in the description below, also know that you're supporting this channel. Thank you. So when Stephen A. Smith was essentially asked about it, he said that he had grown tired of doing the show with Max. It wasn't fun for him anymore. And he didn't hide his feelings about it. He said, listen, I think we needed to move in a different direction. And he was upfront to Max Kellerman about it. He went to him and he went to the executives, and he said he wanted more of a rotational kind of cast. And initially when Max Kellerman left the show did take a dip in terms of viewership, but then ultimately it was able to regain its footing, and now it's soaring in the skies. But the question is, did the moment Max Kellerman get removed from ESPN First Take, was that the beginning of his decline at the network? But what happened after he left ESPN First Take? He left ESPN First Take. He was now relegated to doing a morning show with Keyshawn Johnson, who also just got fired, and Jay Williams, whose contract expired. A morning show that we just recently had found out was being canceled, right? And then he was given his own show called This Just In. And ultimately, it seems like that show wasn't successful enough for him to remain at the network. And the question then becomes, if Max Kellerman was still on ESPN First Take, would he still have a job at ESPN First Take? And I think the answer is yes. I think the answer was yes, because the reason he was no longer on ESPN First Take had nothing to do with the ratings. It was that Stephen A. Smith didn't feel like it was a good fit anymore. But the show was still making a lot of money. So one can surmise that if he was still on that show, he would probably be at ESPN. He would still probably be working at ESPN, because let's just be honest, ESPN First Take is a massive, massive platform, right? It was a massive platform. Now, some people were not a fan of Max Kellerman because of some of it, maybe his political views. Some people said he was woke or whatever it is. I haven't lived in the States for a very long time, but I will be moving back to the States very, very soon. But and this term woke gets thrown around a lot. Over the last year and a half, I thought I understood the definition of woke, but then as the months go by, it seems like the definition is changing. Maybe one day I'll post in the community for somebody to give me the actual definition of what it means to be woke. But a lot of people didn't like some of his political views, right? And it's sad to see him go. But then again, Max Kellerman is a very, very talented guy. He definitely has something to offer. And I think he will work well in a debate format. I think he would really work well in a debate format because of his skills, because of his tenure in sports media. So I think he'll most likely land on his feet. But these are my thoughts. I definitely think that his days were numbered the moment he was removed from ESPN First Take. So the question is this to you guys. Do you think Max Kellerman's days were numbered at ESPN the day he was removed from ESPN First Take? Whatever you guys think, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'll catch you on the next show.